What is up, everybody, and welcome back to yet another episode of the Camera Junkie live stream. My name's Lewis, also known as Mr. Camera Junkie, where I remind you to upgrade your skills before your gear. And if it's your first time here, please be sure to introduce yourself in the chat so that you can get the nice Camera Junkie welcome, and so that I can know your name and I can mention you out here on this stream. And as tradition goes around here, the first thing that we do is we always check the chat to see who are the first ones of the Camera Junkie crew who are here in the house. And yeah, today is actually episode 159. So that is 159 consecutive episodes of the Camera Junkie live stream without skipping a beat. And if you add all those numbers up, yep, that's past 3 years. We just celebrated 3 years of the Camera Junkie live stream a couple weeks ago. And as always, I thank you for taking the time and hanging out here with me. Right off the bat, okay, I did put up a poll question for the first time. That's something a little different. I want to see exactly how that works out for you all. And if Paul has the chance to hop in here, I want to see how he gets to see it as far as a moderator on the channel, you know, because been speaking about that. But right off the bat, we have Randall in the house saying still shopping for others, done for myself. That's so funny because I really don't shop for myself as far as the holiday goes, but I think that's something that might be changing. My holiday gift is something that I can talk about a little bit, which is the Vision Pro, right? I'm saving up all my pennies for that device because that's gonna be a game changer for me in so many different ways. So I'm really excited about that. And right off bat, just to touch on that a little bit, there are some rumors that have been coming around about that device. So I'll get into that in just a little bit. We also have Parker in the house saying hello to everyone. JP is here as well saying howdy from Tennessee. Hope everyone's doing great. I hope the same for everyone, but usually we're all hanging out here doing good. And Randy's also saying hello to everyone. Well, then I'll go right into the Vision Pro aspect. Is that even though it was announced earlier this year and there's been, you know, that it made a big splash, a lot of commotion when it first came out, people giving their first reactions. I've also been keeping up on it, and as of like last week, there's been some updates as far as some content creators that have had the ability to go back to Cupertino, California, and kind of dabble with the Vision Pro for a second, third, and even fourth time. And the information that's coming out is really interesting. As of the latest update on the iPhones, the iPhone 15 is the one that has the ability to, or let me correct myself, the iPhone 15 Pro series, the Pro and the Pro Max are the ones that have the ability to actually record spatial video. And that spatial video is going to bring back 90-degree angle videos. You're going to be seeing a lot more of those. Hey, how you doing, Paul? He made it. I was mentioning you, I did a poll in the chat, so I want to, you know more or less how you see it on your end as a moderator and stuff like that, if you just get to vote on it or you actually get to close it out. But oh, we also have George in the house saying evening to myself. How you doing, George? Thanks for hanging out. Quick second. But yes, one of the creators is Brian Tong, and he's been doing a lot of recording horizontally, and he's had the ability to actually record his own videos, right? So a lot of the creators' initial reactions when it came to the spatial video aspect of Vision Pro, right? The seeing this new type of 3D environment that they said that they felt like it was almost ghost-like, right? That they felt like they were reliving a memory, but it wasn't their own, because it was just a pre-cut video that was recorded, but you felt like you were like a fly on the wall, reliving somebody else's memory because of how immersive the technology was or is, and the fact that they had no they had no emotional attachment to the people that they were seeing in video and sharing a birthday, candle ceremony, so to speak, and it felt very intimate, but that they weren't intimately like invested in the people that they were watching. So with that being said, it's been pretty cool to see people now using Vision Pro to relive their own memories, right? And Brian Tong is one of the ones that actually is probably one of the last videos that I've seen on it, which is where he recorded his own video on his iPhone in the spatial aspect, with food aspect, like his family and a lot of different experiences that were directly correlated to him, and then being able to replay them by visiting the what is it that they call it, the campus, the Apple campus over there in Cupertino, and be able to use that and connect it to the Vision Pro that they have on site, and kind of relive the experience ahead of like the distribution of this head unit. And his reaction in his latest video is really interesting, because there's so much more like emotional attachment to the footage that he's viewing, and he says that like it makes everything kind of purposeful, so to speak, like those candid moments with your family that you would take for granted, right? That it's not all about like those, like it's not all about the setup shots, it's a lot about the memories that you really want to keep. And then on top of that, he also was talking about the aspects and the limitations of the spatial video recording as well, and the distances that you're trying to keep, which makes sense, right? The cameras on the iPhone as well, they could only focus to a certain amount, so you're gonna have to keep everything relative to kind of like the general view so that you can make the most out of it. But it's already in play. Another key note about it is that all of the spatial video is recorded in 1080 high definition, so it's not like 4K video, it's 1080, but because it's being recorded in both wide and like more of a standard viewing angle, they're able to overlap the images to get that type of spatial video, which I really can't wait to get my hands on. But that's one of the things that is another bit of information that's recently come out that is not kind of the most benefit to what I was trying to do with the system ahead of time. So I have this setup here, right? This is my day-to-day and my live stream setup, where I have 1, 2, 3, and even 4 cameras over here, right? And what I wanted to do was have all of these with the power of Ecamm being recording my experience, so to speak, outside of me first utilizing the Vision Pro. Well, that might not be possible, because one of the other things that they mentioned is that anyone who's looking to get their hands on this device might need to set up an appointment to actually go in to Apple to pick it up and get calibrated for it, because apparently there's different sizes of excuse me, apparently there's different sizes of like the gear that you need to put on, and that you would, I guess, need to go into the Apple store to get like appropriately fitted. Best case scenario is that they were able to do all the measurements for you, right? And give you the appropriate pieces, and maybe they come in separate boxes, right? Like the light shield that is adjustable, apparently different for different face types. could also be separated, right? Let's say if you use glasses and you need to purchase the optics that will adjust for your prescription on them, then you're able to kind of like reverse engineer your eyeglass setup and purchase those lenses there on the spot. That would be an additional box that you would just take home, and hopefully you wouldn't have to set up the entire thing while you're there to get like kind of fitted. Hopefully there's a system where it's kind of like, it's kind of like they get to figure out, hey, you're medium size this or an extra large and that, and then they give you like the take home pieces, and kind of the unit itself is kind of the standalone system that you would then put together to have your completed setup. That's best case scenario, because then in that aspect I'll still be able to get fitted and still have my first time experience at home. But if it's of the lesser kind where you would actually have to set up like your Apple ID and everything in store when you do the purchase so that you're the user of the Vision Pro, then it's going to be a bit difficult to try to record that experience and have my initial reaction to it, like I want to have it recorded as well if I'm doing it at the Apple store. It just makes it a little bit difficult, so to speak. So all right, Paul just says I just get to vote on it. Okay, so that's all that happens. Well, first time for everything. But also let me know. Actually, let's see exactly how the poll is going. So most people are like me right now. We're at 62%. Not yet, right? Because we're all still working on it, which is why I also, talking about Paul. I was talking to Paul earlier today, and that the reason why I named today the longest week is because that's exactly how it's felt. Like I felt like it was Friday, Thursday, and Friday. Like it was just like kind of so much going on, and still not everything that I wanted to have been accomplished complete. And one of them is being like holiday shopping, because I'm putting a concerted effort, this year to try to get my family actual gifts, something that is more thoughtful than like just giving them some money or like a gift card or a card with money, so to speak. Because I've also realized that the money doesn't hold the value of like the experience, right? And it's something that I'm very grateful that I was able to do for my family prior to years, or comparative to years prior where I didn't have that ability. I'm really trying to do my best to try to get my family something, so that every time they use it, they would remember that that's what I got them, which I think is kind of like the basis of the gift, right? Which is the thought and the behind the item, not so much the item itself, or in this case I'm generalizing it to just cash, so to speak. So I'm also being honest, I'm also not the best at, I guess, picking gifts, especially for my the females in my family, right? Because I'm just a guy. So when I was married, then that was something that I would definitely have lent or leaned on my wife at the time to help me select things for the other females in my life. But that's not something that I have anymore. So once again, I'm at a loss in that aspect, but like I said, I'm still putting a concerted effort to actually get a gift for my family that is thoughtful. So I'm still working on it, and that's where I'm at. But it's good to see that I'm not the only one, and that we're all out here like hanging out and just doing our best. Still got some time, still got a bit over 10 days, because yeah, we still got time. Randy says cash is better because they can buy what they want. I do agree with that, But then at the same time, I'm gonna disagree with that, because this is the whole thing. If I have, right, and that's what I'm saying, I give people cash, like for, like last year, I believe that's exactly what I did. I didn't really have time to do anything else. But as I was thinking it over, I'm like, what did they buy? I have no idea. So it could have helped them out. And I know certain times, like, cash is even the best thing, depending on certain people's situations. But at the same time, let's say they bought dinner with it, right? You give someone some cash and they go buy dinner with it, and you bought them their meal, which is great. But that meal literally just lasted that night, right? And even though great, and it's a luxury that a lot of people, that I partake in myself, it only lasts that night. So even if it's something, like a little trinket, something like we would even say a stocking stuffer, right? I'm still trying to find something for my family, so that, like, every time that they use it, even something so simple, that they'll be like, oh yeah, this was so cool, and it was also gifted to me by Luis, by my uncle, by my brother, by my son, something. But that's where I'm at. I guess I'm just venting this week. But don't get me wrong, cash is always good. Versus driving, finding the poll in a bit. Let's just make sure we're talking about the poll in the chat and not the one on the streets while you're driving, sir. Be safe. But yes. Now it's not gonna be a poll, but I'm gonna ask you to put in the chat, for those of you who are hanging out here with me, what is what you want for Christmas? If you're someone like Randy or maybe myself, you might be purchasing this for yourself, right? But let me know what's an item or something that really has caught your eye, that that you're interested in, right? Whether it be to gift to someone or for yourself. Leave them in the chat. I'm really interested to see what you guys are finding most interesting right now, as far as deals and things like that. Because right now, lately, I've just been on a like car parts binge, just because I've been fixing up my car and doing all those things like that. So Randy says mocha frappe large. Oh wow, look who's here, Kombucha. It's been such a long time. How's the baby? And welcome. I'm so glad to see you here, and happy holidays, the ones that we've missed and not. But it's so good to see you here. I guess she's thinking. She's going, what is something that she would want to get for herself, right? Like, that's what I'm saying. Even if it's like a coffee maker, right? Imagine if listen, if Keurig would make a mocha frappe machine, Randy, what would you think about that, right? I think that would be dope if you could actually make your own at home. Make it a lot easier, or the convenience of being home. Okay, so she says, I've been getting back to creating YouTube videos again, and I've been eyeing a lot of lenses. Paul is saying hi to Kim. Lenses, I actually picked up quite a few recently for the creator camp. The one that I was really excited about and surprisingly used more than anything is an APS-C lens. So for the A6000 line of Sony cameras, that sort. But I believe it's available for Micro Four Thirds and a couple of other different camera mounts. But it is my Rokinon. Some people call it Rokinon. I believe it's Rokinon 12mm f2.0. And that AF is what's most important. the autofocus. Because Rokinon had actually had pretty much the optics of this lens in a manual for a variety of different cameras, but this one is the autofocus one, and it's light and compact, and paired with my A6600, this thing was just perfect for like self-portraits. But I really did a lot more of landscape photography or architectural photography, especially when I spent the time over there in the Boston, Massachusetts, Amesbury area. So that was a lot of fun. Another lens that I recently got, which I believe is on my other camera. Let me see if it's here. Yeah. And this one, I'm gonna be honest. Oh. Gonna be honest, I still haven't put it through its paces. I've taken some photos here and there, and they're a lot of fun, but I wish I would have had this more in mind for the architectural. But this is the Astehori 18mm f8, and the aperture it's fixed at f8, so it only has one aperture, f8. It doesn't go f8 to 16 or to f32. No, f8. That is its maximum and its minimum. Excuse me. But the thing about this lens is these little lines right here, which it's a tilt shift. So this one gives the ability to tilt the angle. And even though it's set up to be or sold as a full frame lens, meaning you can use it on a full frame lens camera, you could basically only use it dead center as an 18mm f8 on a full frame, because whenever you do any of the shifting from left to right, you basically start seeing mad like heavy vignetting on the side that you're like pushing it to, right? And it does give a different skew of aspect, right, onto the sensor of the way that the image is being recorded. So it's really cool for architecture. I foresee it, especially like with the type of photography that I've done in that aspect. But this was just about $100, so completely manual. And for photography, if that's like what you're dabbling into, which you're creating videos, but for photography, this is like a really interesting and like gives a completely different perspective to it. So on full frame, wouldn't recommend. APS-C, yes, because even when you shift it on APS-C, you're not seeing a lot of that vignetting that you get on the full frame, because of the fact that you're cropping in to the center portion of the image. So that's why I have it on this one, pretty much set up as a little like point and shoot, carry with you and just have with you anywhere you go when you're just ripping out of the house. But for video, that's why I'm really liking this one, because of the autofocus. But then I think I'm actually going to be pulling the trigger on a G Master lens. I haven't purchased any, but I'm still torn because I really like the colors that I get from my Zeiss lenses. So I might just get the 16 to 35 Zeiss and pair that up with my 24 to 70 Zeiss and live happily ever after with my prime 55mm Zeiss. Okay, so Kim is saying here, says, good to see you too. It says, baby is great. He's full-blown toddler. He's a good time, but he's great. Life is good. Can't complain. That's awesome. I'm so glad to hear it. It says, oh yeah, nice wide angle lens. Weighs less than the Sigma. So much less. Like, I think by 2/3 less, believe it or not, comparative to the Sigma. And it's definitely shorter, but continue. Would be nice. I also want to learn portrait photography, so a zoom lens would also be nice. A zoom lens, if it's a zoom lens for photography, even if it's an APS-C camera, I think I would still recommend the 24 to 70. Let me see if I have my camera here. So here we are. I'm gonna go to my overhead shot. This is my A6600, and as you can see, I have it paired with the full frame 24 to 70. Now the 24 is basically gonna be multiplied by 1.5. So doing the math correctly, I believe this will give me an effective field of view range on this camera, even though it's a zoom, of 35 millimeters. So if it was here, but when we're all the way to 70, this acts like a 105. So it gives you a lot more of like of that zoom aspect. Also cool that it's a solid f4, and that's why the G Master lenses are great, because they're great for video, and they usually go to aperture 2.8, which is going to be a lot better in low light. But the price, you know, to performance is really where you know, even me, like, I'm like, do I really need that for the type of photography and videos that I do, right? My prime lenses to get the best in low light are for my APS-C cameras. And whenever I'm using my full frame, f4 is more than adequate, because full frame cameras capture more light. So for that aspect, this is perfect. But then also with this camera, that's great in low light, and the APS-C having this zoom range and that higher like zoom range, or that longer focal length, especially when you're getting around here, because 50 in this case is going to be acting more like an 80 millimeter. So 85 millimeters is like ideal for portrait photography, in my opinion. But I've gotten some great shots at much further lengths, and some of my secret go-to juice, so to speak, or my secret lenses, is my 135 to 400, which is my mama jamma, so to speak, and it's an old Canon lens. And that one, when it just has a completely different look and feel to it. So most of anything, I really do like the Zeiss branded lenses that you see there. I like their coatings and the warmth that you get from this brand of like treatment, so to speak, on the lenses. My favorite lens is my 55 millimeter. That's my all-time favorite from Zeiss 1.8. It's not a G Master, and that's why I said, like, just because they are the fastest doesn't necessarily mean that they are the best, depending on how or what your style is, because it's really dependent on your style. Now, if you're just talking about performance and numbers and, like, you know, like your ISO and all that, of course a G Master 2.8 at a fixed lens is going to allow more light, so it's just going to be a clinically sharper image. But there's always this debate on, like, is the sharpness the best thing that you're gonna get out of the image? So I'm gonna drop a little bit of a bombshell on you guys this week. Not tomorrow, but Monday I actually get my first Pro Mist filter, and I'm gonna try to use that to see how much of a difference does it really do to my image. So I'm gonna be messing around with that to see exactly how different that looks from this to something like this, to then also my vintage lenses, right? Because right now in this camera I'm using the Sigma 30 millimeter f1.4, and that's what I have on here right now. And it's like, it's a great lens as well. But I have a variety, a plethora of vintage lenses that give a lot of those dreamy type looks, the softness, right? Because they're not the clinically sharp autofocus lenses, and because of it, they almost look like they have a filter pre-applied. So I'm gonna be messing around with that to see what I get into as far as looks and feel of my videos moving forward, so to speak. So Kim also says, to be honest though, I don't need another lens. You're so incorrect. The appropriate amount of lenses, there's a numerical or a mathematical equation that was created. It is actually n plus 1, and n is equal to the current amount of lenses that you have. So the appropriate amount of lenses is n plus 1, and n being your current amount of lenses. So that is the numerical and mathematical formula. But she says, I have a 1630 and the Sony kit lens and should probably learn how to use those well first. Well, if you have the 16 and the 30, then let me know, Kim, if you actually are, if you're using APS-C cameras and if these are the ones that you have. Because if you have the Sigma 16 1.4 and you have the Sigma 30 1.4, then I would highly recommend that you just complete the trio of the Sigma lenses, which is the Sigma 56 millimeter f1.4. And myself, I don't have that one because I utilize my 55 millimeters f1.8, which I had just mentioned is my favorite lens, in replacement of that. So my 55 millimeter, or in the Sigma case 56, is going to give you an equivalent on the APS-C of an 84 millimeter lens, which is basically that sweet spot, 85 millimeters for portrait photography. So in that same aspect, the 30 millimeters is a good way to start even for portraits, right? This is a great lens because you can get that nice blurry background, and you can get pretty close but also get a little far back as far as the type of shot that you're going for. But if you want to get way more of that portrait look into more of the telephoto range, then definitely the Sigma 56 millimeter, you're going to be getting a similar look to what you're already accustomed to with your cameras, which these lenses, I've been using Sigma since my Canon days, but I digress. And that's why I still use them today. So it's a lens that I don't have the personal need for because I have my other 55, but I still want to get my hands on just to kind of complete the trio because I love these lenses. My most used lenses are my Sigma duo right here, my 16 and 30 millimeter. But yes, you're right, those G Masters are, but they're also cha-ching, because this is a rule that I heard recently, and I'm going to share with y'all, that for you to say that you can afford something is for you to be able to buy two of them and a replacement, so to speak, right? So for you to honestly be able to afford something is like saying, like, okay, if this breaks, am I completely SOL, right? Or would I be able to replace it for a similar type price? Which is where it's tough. So when people ask me which camera do you recommend, I recommend this little guy right here, which is the Sony ZV-1F. It's a $500 USB camera. It can do 4K 24, 4K 30, USB plug-in, so that you don't need a separate video capture card, and you can use it as a live stream camera or a zoom camera, eCam camera, anything like that. And it's $500. And I don't know if it's still on sale. The link for the camera is down below, but they were selling it, I know, for the Cyber Weekend for $400. So a $4/500 camera is kind of ideal because of something that happened to me. Like, the wind blew the tripod over here when I was using this camera, and this thing fell dead on its face. Now, very lucky, and show you this shot. No, oh, I went early. This shot right here, because if you can see, it's right here. You can see the camera in the shot, and the lens is a fixed lens that does not protrude, and that's basically what saved it. Because if you see this thing right here, right, this actually is what ended up hitting the ground on the tripod before the camera. If it was the regular ZV-1 where the the lens extends past that point, it would have been the first thing that the ground hit and the camera would have been done. So I was very fortunate that this stayed intact. But at the same time, that case scenario, if it was the standard ZV-1 and my camera was completely exploded and busted and I needed to buy a new one, it's a lot easier to replace and rebuy a $500 camera than a $1,500 camera, right? It just makes that sense. So whenever you're looking to purchase anything new, just keep that in mind. Do you have the ability not only to purchase it, but to purchase it and purchase a replacement in case that it breaks? And if not, then when you make your initial purchase, also know that that's what you should be saving for the next go round, so to speak, because it's just the insurance that you can get for yourself, so to speak. Hey Wall is in the house saying, hey y'all. There was an opinion missing on the poll. Haven't even started. Oh, that's so funny, K-Wall. And Kim was over here saying she's gonna pray for you. Paul saying you still have some few days. Yep. She's gonna be doing all Amazon Prime. Everything's like, just make sure when you do your Amazon shopping that little Prime ticker is clicked on, and make sure that everything is getting to your house as soon as possible. That's my tip to you. Yep. N+1. I think it's algebra, right? No. N+1. N equaling the current amount of lenses, and +1 is the perfect amount. Okay, so yes, she's concurring that she has the Sigma 16 and the 30 from Sigma with the A6400. Then yes, as far as if portrait is what you want to do, especially now, I know with your little boy, you're probably going to want to take a lot of photos of him, because that's also, I can't even tell you how many photos I have of Aiden that nobody sees but me. And those are my, like, that's my treasure, right? Like, but I digress. And so that you can have the same, I highly recommend you look into the Sigma 56mm, and also check the used market. Right, that's not a new lens, so there's a variety of different options. I had a most recently pleasant experience with KEH, but there's also Adorama and a variety of different MPB. I believe it's another one that does use lenses. Lensrentals.com. Also, they don't only rent. A lot of times you can look into their section of what they're selling and what's available for sale. So a lot of different options in a lot of different places, and even Facebook Marketplace or something like that. When it comes to lenses, especially these, the reason why is because none of these Sigma lenses, if someone's not familiar with them and is watching or listening in, they don't have any stabilization. Right? So even though they have autofocus, they don't have any stabilization. And what that does is that it actually tends to keep the structure of the internals to be a lot more solid and a lot more, like military spec, I guess I would say. So for example, if you were to test one of these lenses on your camera, say you're meeting up with someone through an OfferUp or a Facebook Marketplace, if it's doing what it's supposed to do, connecting to the camera, and it's not giving you like any like connection errors, and it's focusing, then like almost 9.5 times out of 10, you're pretty much good. I could even say higher percentage. I would say like 98% chance of you're gonna be getting a perfectly good working lens, right? If from my own experiences buying used, anything that I have found that has had any issue, it shows itself right away. So if you're able to like connect it to your camera, take a few pictures, and it looks, cosmetically okay, it doesn't look like it's just been beat to hell, then you're gonna be pretty much good to go, and you can get a really good price on that 56 millimeter because it is the least popular of the trio. But if you're doing portraits, highly recommend that. George says he just got the newer 40.5 black diffusion 1/8 mist filter. I guess that's the pro mist filter for my Sony ZV-1F. Haven't had a chance to play with it yet. Well, I'm definitely going to be messing around with the pro mist filters to see exactly, what the hype is all about. Because this is the whole thing, and I, like, to each his own, I guess. As a photographer, right? As a photographer, I'm a pixel peeper, right? I love the highest resolutions, right? I love 40 to 61 megapixel cameras, right? Because I know that it's giving this extra layer of detail that even though you might be looking at the photo from afar, it's in there, and that even if you're not generally looking at it, your eyes are, like your eyes pick up on it. And that's what I like about it. I guess that's my experience with it, right? From my photography experience, if you have to tell somebody that the photo is good, it's not your best photo. Like, it could be a good photo and that's still subject, like, to approval. But in my experience, when a photo is good, you don't have to say anything. Someone could just look at it and they could be either a complete professional or a complete novice, and they're both going to look at it and give you a similar type of reaction to it. Like, oh, that's good, whether it's your composition, the feel that you get from the photo. It's all done within the work. That's why I say always upgrade your skills before your gear, because going back to it, in my own experience, when I started seeing the biggest difference in my work, it wasn't that I bought a new lens. It was that I put in the work to understand what makes the best photo, at least for me in my style. And that's when I started getting the best response, and people's excuse me, people's reactions, and their first reactions is like, did you get a new lens? Right? And because they're thinking like automatically that the gear is what's going to take you to that next level. And once I realized for myself that it wasn't, I was like, okay, let's work with what we have. And depending on your use case and your scenario is depending on what device or lens you should be getting. So that's my own experience. Okay, so JP says, made it home, found the poll, and yes, just finished our shopping. Oh, so I guess that's what you were doing out there. And he's also saying hi to Kim. So glad to hear that you are doing well. That's great. Sly is in the house. Says you can never go wrong with giving a woman a candle. Just pick something that smells nice. You see, that's a great piece of advice. Thank you, Sly. And I just want to let you know, I was trying my hardest to be awake yesterday. But that's kind of why I titled today The Longest Week. That's what it felt. I did not register what was going on last night. I woke up extremely late, and I wasn't able to see Peter's or your live stream, so I'm gonna have to do my best to catch the replays. But tonight, on another note, tonight there's a whole lot of UFC going on, which I know is gonna take up all of my time tonight, watching the last event, UFC 296, the last event of 2024 as we move forward. A big card, and I'm really excited to see the results. Kevin is also in the house saying hello to all. Late to the party tonight. You're never late, man. Always on time. But we are reaching getting close to the hour's end, and even though some of you might have seen it a bit early, we're gonna go to this week's Cities Gaw channels that I think you should go and watch. And this week's Cities Gaw is none other than Shelly from Shelly Saves the Day. Now, you might not have heard of Shelly. Let me be the one to introduce you. She's a creator that I found when she was working with the company TubeBuddy. Now, I kind of thought of her because me and Paul were talking about TubeBuddy and other programs and applications that we use while we're on this amazing platform known as YouTube. But she was one of their like main content creators, so to speak. And like going back 3 years ago, maybe 4 years ago, she was really big up on working with TubeBuddy and making a lot of content. So after that, I had the pleasure to meet her at the first People of Video conference, and we've been, creator friends ever since. And she has a variety of great information if you're trying to build up your channel on YouTube. And as you can see there, it says YouTube explained simply in content creation tips. She can give you a wide range because she's also was a consultant for a lot of other YouTube channels. So she knows what she's doing, and she's got a lot of great advice. And she's been out of the loop for a while, but she's usually does a Thursday live streams, which I try to catch as much as I possibly can. But this holiday season has been hard for me to do any of that, and that's just on me. But she's been creating a lot more content as of late. As you can see, just like within the last couple of weeks, she's been a lot more on it, and I'm glad to see that she's back hopping on this. And if you haven't done so already, if never heard of her, this is Shelly from Shelly Saves the Day, and I highly recommend you go ahead and check out her content. You might like what you see. And that's this week's Cities Gaw channels that I think you should go and watch. Boom. And there we go. And I didn't forget this week, so that's good here. Let's see. It says need to sneak in a UFC watch party. It's very interesting, but you know what? The thing is, I don't even watch them live, right? Because I know that the prelims and all that stuff has been going on. So believe it or not, I am one of those hardcore fans that I watch all the fights. So I will sit there and I will start watching the prelims and maybe 6 to 8 matches of that, and then start watching the pay-per-view card, which could be another maybe 6 matches after that. So it could be a night full of combat sports, but it's something that I grew up with. Like whether it was been boxing or anything like that, I've just grown up with it, and I was one of the first people to been introduced to the UFC back when it was like no rules. Most people don't even remember that, like that the first UFC were like full carnage, no weight classes. It was just like nothing comparative to what we see today. But I'm also like really excited about the fact that the way that it has evolved, and especially that there's so many people involved in it, that I get to see a sport that I like enjoy to watch weekly, so that's it on me. And it's not to be complete barbaric, right? Because there's another thing that's been out there, and I won't even mention it. But there's other ways that people try to do other type of like, I guess, combat sports that are not very sports like. And for that reason, I won't partake in watching or even mentioning those types of events, but they exist. So just sharing with y'all exactly how I feel. I've just been like, I was the kid who came here from Puerto Rico and was showed Karate Kid, the Ralph Macchio back in the day. And I wanted to be that, like, So that just goes to show you. So maybe that's why me and Doc Rock get along so well, right? Going back to Okinawa and Japan, I'm like, and it's just been something like my lifelong goal. And that's funny because I share this with you because when I first got to the state of Florida from Puerto Rico, right? Like the first house that I visited and like the first night that I stayed here in the state was at my uncle's house, and the movie that we watched on TV was Karate Kid. And that was the first US soil movie that I've ever seen, and it holds that special place in my heart, so to speak. I grew up watching boxing from, like the Roberto Durangs, the Julio Cesar Chavez, the Tito Trinidad, so many people that I could tell you that I've just been watching combat sports for like my entire life. That is just, hey, as long as it's around, I'm gonna be watching because something that I absolutely just I love the competition. But I just went on a UFC soliloquy. It says bad man contest. Says don't forget to close your poll before the stream ends. Oh, okay, you see, thank you for that. I'm gonna go ahead and do that now. Another thing is that I realized that when I do the cities go, right, I could literally only have that web page open as far as like the Google Chrome, right? Like the Chrome browser that I'm using to show Shelly is the only thing, because even if I were to open up like the pop-out chat window over here, whenever I get to the Cities Go screen, it's all jacked up and it goes crazy. So I've set it up on the laptop off onto the side. Okay, that was easy. I'm gonna try to get more intricate with those things and see what I can or can't do. But that's just having fun with what we do here week in and week out. So if this was your first time here hanging out with us, right, and or if you're watching it on replay, just know that we do this every single week. So next week, same time, same place, we're gonna be doing it all over again for episode 160 as we continue to march on our goal now for year 4, right? 4 consecutive years of the Camera Junkie live stream. And as always, I thank you all for taking the time and hanging out here with me week in and week out as we have fun doing this thing that we do every week, hanging out and talking cameras and talking, holidays and shopping lists and stuff like that. So also I wish you the best in this coming week if you are doing the last minute holiday shopping. And I think that's it. I want to thank you all. Take care of yourselves and each other, and I can't wait to see all of your smiling faces as we do it all over again next week right here on the Camera Junkie live stream, episode 160, and we keep it rolling. Talk to you.